Hello friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Let's start our video with a story in which revenge was literally served cold. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Customer talked crap about me to my face. I valet at a high-end restaurant here in Atlanta. Last night was very cold with very high winds, probably around 35 to 40 degrees, but the wind chill made it unbearable. In the busy rush, a very rude, and I'll say sassy male came out and without getting off his phone asked me for change. Not wanting to give him $20 in ones, people get upset, I pulled out my wallet to give him some fives along with some ones from our till. I'm wearing gloves, so handling the money is taking a few seconds longer than this individual would like. Now, take in mind, the money that we get in tips is all kinds of wrinkled and unorganized. It's in the middle of a shift. I can see that he's shivering from the cold, so I try to be quick. That's when he says this effing valet is taking forever to count to 20. He's literally standing 1 foot away from me. He wasn't speaking to me, but to the person on his phone. I immediately stopped counting and looked him in the eye, meeting his gaze. I put the fives back in my wallet, then proceeded to slowly rummage through the wrinkled and folded up dollar bills. I slowly count them out to 20, twice, while still looking him square in the eye, then go back through, unwrinkle them all, making sure none of the edges were folded and all faced the right way, then I handed them over. The whole time he's shivering terribly. Petty revenge, served cold. You should have counted to 19 and then said, oops, sorry, I don't have enough to break a 20. And our second story. I staged a mini revolution. This took place during the first summer of lockdown where I live. Some context for you. My town is basically on the edge of nowhere. We have a medical center for basic stuff, but a hospital is 30 to 40 minutes in any direction depending on where you choose to go. With that in mind, we get people from a huge surrounding area that go to our town center for tests, simple medical exams, etc. Maybe as many as 50 small communities use our center on a daily basis, so it's constantly busy. The center itself is quite small compared to hospitals in the city. The various clinics and a basic ER take up most of the space, with an area by the front doors for the public to sit in if they're waiting for a ride or someone visiting a doctor. It's that waiting area that's the cause for my story today. One day during the first summer of lockdown here, I had to go to the medical center for tests. Some things to know about me: I'm challenged with multiple disabilities, I'm legally blind, have significant mobility and balance issues, and a rather severe heart condition. As such, I use a walking frame and travel using the city's provided disabled transports. That particular day, I'd finished my tests early and had 45 minutes to wait until my transport was scheduled to return to pick me up. I figured, no problem, I'll just sit in the waiting area and, well, wait. I shuffled over to the seats with my walker plainly evident and was confronted by a new sign, staff only. Say what now? I look around at all the empty seats and vacant tables and turn to the clerks at the entrance. Me. Can I please have a seat in the waiting area until my transport comes back? Clerk, coldly. No, it's for staff only. You need to wait outside. Me. I can't stand for 45 minutes waiting for my transport. Gesturing to my plainly apparent walking frame that I was clearly leaning heavily on. Clerk, not my problem. There are benches to sit on outside. Me. The benches are full, and we're supposed to be social distancing, not cuddling up to random strangers on a park bench. Clerk, if you want, I suppose I could let you take a wheelchair out and sit in that. Me. And how am I to manage a wheelchair and my walking frame at the same time? Clerk, again, not my problem. If you want, you can call center management when you get home. Are we done here? I guess we're done. And I went outside to find a spot to wait. Well, I stood outside for the 45 minutes while the sun beat down on what turned out to be a 104-degree day. As I stood there, I noticed that there was a line of patients steadily growing longer, also standing outside in the heat, waiting to be let into the building. Some looked fit, but let's face it, nobody comes to a medical center because they feel 100%. Most of them looked quite ill, and some were looking pretty faint by the time they got through the doors. By the time my transport arrived, I was badly sunburned, thirsty as hell, exhausted, and feeling more than a bit faint myself. My driver was shocked and insisted on walking me to my front door when he got me home to make sure I was okay. Shout out to all transport drivers. You guys rock. The rest of the day was a complete loss. I spent it drinking water, sleeping, and nursing the burns on my shoulders and face. I was a right mess. The next day, however, I was pissed. I had plenty of time to recover and think, and I kept coming back to that line of patients standing in the heat. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. The words the clerk so smugly said, "You can call center management when you get home if you want," danced through my sun-baked brain like a mantra. I called center management. What followed was a half-hour conversation with the sweetest lady. She was so nice and so upset when I told her all that went on the day before. She was especially concerned when she found out about the line of people waiting outside, one that turned out to be the hottest day we had that summer. After our talk, the manager promised to look into it and get back to me. Now, normally that's sort of a brush-off, right? Not so with this lady. 2 days later, she called me back. Turned out she'd spent the day before sitting at the clerk's desk observing things that went on, things like patients being forced to stand in the rain waiting to get into the center, patients being poorly spoken to by the same desk clerk, and the cherry on top, at one point a tiny elderly lady tried to sit down in the waiting area and the same clerk ran over and rudely shoved her aside and snapped, "Staff only," with her boss sitting right there. The manager went over, tore down the signs, apologized to the lady, and helped her to a seat, then took the clerk into her office for a chat. The result? The center was immediately restructured. Staff were moved into an unused gift shop, the waiting room was returned to the public, and best of all, the registry desks were moved so patients no longer had to stand outside waiting to get into the building. I never saw that clerk again. I know this isn't as exciting as most stories on here, but knowing I was part of making things so much better for so many still makes me happy. Dang it, I'm proud of my mini coup. Viva la resistance, and all that crap. And our last story. Rude to me? I took everything. So about 4 years ago, I was working as a certified nurse's aide. I later lost my job for unrelated reasons and never went back into the field for other reasons. While I was there, I was one of 4 who would train the new people. This is only relevant as the person this involves, who'll be called John, was one of the guys I trained at our facility. John, for the most part, was easy to get along with, but had a temper, and everyone was aware of it. What I didn't know at the time was that he was also fighting for custody of his child. One day, about a year into him working there, he had messed up some charting. No big deal, I fixed it and corrected him on his mistake. He at first was confused, but I just explained that he might have gotten the charting numbers mixed up and it was no problem. Now for reference, we did our charting paper style at the desk located between 2 of the halls, and occasionally our residents, patients, would be sitting in front of it while chatting with us. As most of them were dementia care, they never really remembered what would be said. But regardless, we never talked about anyone by name, only room number or chart number. About an hour after this, I got done cleaning up from a resident's shower, and he came in the shower room and asked me to talk to him. Sure, that's fine, as it was a private area. He made mention that he didn't appreciate me correcting him in front of people. It made sense, so I apologized and told him it wouldn't happen again. I don't know where I went wrong, but he started getting loud about how it was his hall and no one had the right to talk to him like that. Okay, now I'm pissed. I told him that, 1, we don't have hall leads at our facility, nor does any nursing home I've seen, excluding maybe our nurses who are in charge. And 2, I've been here for longer than him, and apparently nothing I said while training him stuck. This didn't sit well with him. He proceeded to pin me to the wall of the shower room with his arm across my throat and hand holding my shirt. As he held me there, he told me if I ever talked to him like that again, he was reporting me to the state for HIPAA violations. Now, HIPAA is not something I take lightly. One slip-up could cost you everything in this field with a HIPAA violation. I was red with anger. My thing is, I'm double this guy's size and didn't want to lose my job for fighting with a coworker. This place was terrible, but I enjoyed helping the residents. So I started thinking and immediately had an idea. If there was one thing I knew, it was that the only thing worse for your license than a HIPAA violation was elder abuse. So I started my scheme. We had a man in our hall who had brain damage from football, and as such was highly combative and took 2 people to normally handle him. I was able to do him on my own generally, as I talked to him about football while taking care of him. I played defensive line in high school. That day he developed a bruise on his chest, and I had no clue where it came from, but I had where I was going to say it came from. I immediately called in John to help me transfer the resident to bed. As we got done and went into the hall, I, saying it just loud enough for several CNAs and nurses to hear, stated, "I don't care why you did it, you never hit a patient." He was taken aback by this whole statement. It clicked about 5 seconds later what I just did to him. The nurses had me write a statement in which I mentioned I asked if he knew where that bruise came from, and John told me that while he was walking the resident to the bathroom, he kept squeezing his arm so he hit him in the chest. Yes, this guy would squeeze arms and wrists when being walked. The next day I came in and found out that John lost his job and police and adult protective services were pressing charges on him. I did find out a few weeks later, however, that he not only lost his license, he also lost complete custody of his child to his ex-wife and got no visitation. On top of that, he had to sell everything he owned in order to pay for his lawyer. Needless to say, I could have been a little more fair with him, but I loved watching his life burn down around him. Let it be learned, don't grab or threaten people who can ruin your life with the drop of a hat. He honestly sounded like a bomb waiting to go off. And I'm glad he's not in healthcare anymore. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.